I think where curious youngsters get caught is audacity. You know, there's that level of entitlement, and it's not a Gen Z thing. I hate when everyone's like Gen Z. I saw this in fucking Generation X when I was 22. Like people are entitled consistently, you know? And so, you know, as long as you're empathetic that Vayner would like to give you that at bat in project management, but it's not ready just yet. And whether that's Vayner or you decide to go somewhere else, for all of you, as long as you're empathetic to the organization, if they're really trying, well then, and you're willing to be patient, then you're in a good spot. I will say that where younger generations got caught is the world's faster now because of technology. And so patience is definitely something people struggle with, you know, and because of the way the world is, insecurity has always been poison, but now people literally are living their lives so publicly that if they're insecure and they want success so that they can flex, it eliminates patience. I mean, you'd be stunned if you saw some of the emails I get from employees who left here for a $5,000 raise when we weren't willing to do it because they just wanted to buy some dumb shit. And now we're like, what the fuck did I do? You know? And so you guys and gals are so young. It's about being thoughtful, but do not downplay. You're not chaotic. You're not too, crazy about that. That's good. You're trying to figure out your shit. I think it's a strength, but you just have to be, unless you're an entrepreneur and you control your way, you have to know that there's, we're the most pro-employee org on earth. And even for us, it's hard for you to be like, hey, I want to be PCS because that spot might not exist at this exact second.
What is the best mindset and the learning path that I can take to become the future of this company? And I'm not saying become where you are. I'm just saying like to grow in this company and to be a big part of it.
It's a great question. I think a couple things. One is self-awareness. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. There are plenty of times, and I'm as happy as it gets professionally, and there are still plenty of times that I say, I wonder how cool it would have been to have the DNA that would have made me like, I'm envious of a lot of my senior employees. I'm like, like yesterday, like being sick, it was not only bad to have 103 fever, it was even worse knowing that I was missing things that were really important. And like, I can't like rely on anybody else to do that role. So I think first of all, self-awareness. When you have ambition, even you asking that question, my fear is that you push yourself into places on an ideology versus the reality of who you actually are. So I think the best way people can be the future of this company is, one, they have a good sense of themselves. Two, they have a good sense of what they want in life, financially, creatively, work-life balance. Three, this is a big one. I want everybody to pay attention to this one. Three, that they have the capacity to change their mind 5 years from now. So some of you right now might be like, I actually do want Gary's job. I want to be the global CEO of VaynerX in 20 years. And I think that's fucking rad. On the flip side, you may fall deeply, deeply in love in 7 years and then start a family and be like, fuck that. I want to be like my mom or dad, or I want to be the reverse of my mom and dad. And I want to be at every recital and every ball game. And that's not going to let you be the global CEO of VaynerX. That's just real talk. So I think that if you have a good sense of who you are, if you're comfortable in who you are, and if you're willing to change your mind of what you want, that's a huge starting point. The next things are, one, let there be no confusion. Unless you are a very nice person and nice to others, you can only grow so much here. There's nobody that gets to the upper levels. So if you're in a place where you're still insecure, like if you have big ambitions here and you're testy because you yourself are slightly unhappy, I started thinking about things like meditation. I started thinking about things like therapy, because there's been so many people that had the talents to get to the highest levels here, but lost along the way because they didn't have the human capacity to be the person I need them to be with each other. They're political. They worry about their money. They try to tear down other people who they think are trying to take their spot. So all that stuff. And then finally, and I'm going to pound the living shit out of this, without the S in SOC, you can only get so far. Strategic organic content, and something you'll be hearing a lot about soon called PAC, platforms and culture. The future of communication over the next 10 years, which is going to impact all of you, is whoever is the most significantly talented in understanding how the platforms work and understand the cultural nuances of hundreds of different consumer segmentations. Not culture as in the cool slang term for urban hip hop culture. I mean, do you know what 40 to 47-year-old middle America hunter and fisherman type dudes care about and how to get them to buy chocolate milk? Right? So it's all cultures, it's all ages, genders, races, interests, financial levels. And one thing I worry about in this company, I talked to the team, as most of you saw the video with Brittany King, and we just have a very strong passion around DE&I and different things of that nature. One of the things I see from so many of my well-intended senior executives is they think the strategists and creatives that will be best for the consumer cohorts are the people that look like the consumer cohorts, and that's not true. Right? Like, I don't think a 40-year-old woman is the only person that knows how to sell 40-year-old women stuff. I don't think you have to be Hispanic to understand how to sell stuff to Hispanics. And so I see a lot of well-intended subconscious thinking that I'm excited to change over time, because I fit only one demo, with my age and gender, but my whole career is built on my empathy and compassion and intuition around all people. And so it's also why I think a lot of you are probably aware that in your circles of friends, family, acquaintances, my brand hits for a lot of people, all that looks super different. And it's because, the messaging is contextual, even though it's still grounded in the same truth of love over hate.
Anything kind of last parting shot for people that are trying to get into a happier place or trying to accomplish more?
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't even connect it to any of this stuff on Pepsi or anything like that. What I would say is kind of more what we were talking about earlier, is that it's kind of, life is what you make of it, which I know is the most cliche kind of thing out there, but it's this idea. I tell everybody at Pepsi, I mentor a lot of younger folks and people who are just coming in, and a lot of people see the world as it's presented to them, not as it is. Right? So they'll get a job and say, well, my job description says whatever. And I'm like, every job I've been in at Pepsi, I've kind of not rewritten completely, but you make it your own. What is your take on it? What are you going to bring to this? Then what are you passionate about? As you connect the dots, don't always ask and just say, here's the things that you need to do here, boom, 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 boom. Like, what can you do to kind of make your job your own?
It's kind of like brand marketing, right? Every big brand's, sentence or mission statement is so vague that how you interpret going for it or doing it for one time or the life beyond the life or whatever it might be.
Totally.
That's complete interpretation.
Well, and case in point, when I came into the water business, right, it was like, hey, we sell Aquafina, we got our play, we got the segmentation done by whatever. And I was looking at it and I'm like, it feels like, but I'm looking outside, I'm seeing an explosion of premium water. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, maybe we should take a step back and rethink it. And so, kind of saying, like, if I'm leading water, so let's turn it on its head. Let's come up with a new thing. Let's come up with some new brand. And so it's like, don't be afraid to push or question the norms just because they're presented to you. Like, see the world as it is, not how it's presented to you.
And deal with the ramifications. And with that, right? Which is like, and if you sucked and you innovated crappy water and you got fired, what? You can always go do something. Like, honestly, at some level, like, one of the biggest ways I think that I've been able to help my friends and then employees do things is just push them very heavily on what will happen. You'll get fired? Okay. Well, that sucks and that's bad. Do you have any savings? And sometimes the person's like, yes. I'm like, you know, and I'll really go into it. They're like, I'm like, wait, you have 3 years worth of savings.
Totally.
And you're not trying to push the envelope. You can get fired and chill for a year and still be okay. Other people are in debt and they can't. Maybe you can't push as hard, but while you've decided to push in your organization, you're interviewing outwardly just in case you do get fired. Like, what?
Right. What's this idea? And it almost goes back to, you know, when I was playing tennis growing up, I was a competitive tennis player. My dad used to always say, because I would be a head case sometimes, play to win, don't play not to lose. And I would get into this defensive mode where
that's what tennis is.
I would literally be the
tennis.
classic. I'm up 5-1 and I would lose 7-5. Because
Really?
I would be like, I wouldn't be thinking, I'd be having fun, I'd be kicking egg.
Big shout out to Nate Schroeder on my team who's led me 5-2 3 times and has lost 7-5 all 3 times.
But that's the deal. It's kind of like right when you start realizing like, shit, I'm killing this guy right now. I'm going, I got this, and then I get in my head and I'm like, don't mess it up, and then I change my strategy. I start laughing.
The whole team's
like,
pushing me. We got to run, but I got to tell you, no, you don't be sorry.
But that's totally the deal.
They need to be sorry because I got to say this. There's something crazy about tennis. Out of all the places on earth that I've navigated my life, it's the only place where I can get defensive. There's something crazy about being up 5-1 and losing that second game, starting to like visualize the comeback.
Totally.
Then 5-3 comes. Now you're serving up 5-3. You should cruise into this.
Totally.
God forbid you lose that game. It's 5-4. It's definitely now 5-5.
The second it gets to 5-4, you've
You
lost.
understand this?
It's totally.
Like you react like you.
That's the deal.
There's something about
it's so real.
not even ping pong, not even other places. Something about that
It's the mental flip,
it.
and so play to win, not to lose.
If your parents are paying for your existence, they have say.
They have a say.
Right? If your parents are paying for you to live, they have say in what you do, right? And so the question becomes a couple things. One of the frameworks that most scares me is kids taking their parents' money when they're grown up to do what they want to do, not what their parents want to do. So I think one of the things to think about is how do you live more humbly so you don't take $1 from them, so that you don't need to sell them on your mission, so that when you accomplish your mission, they'll be proud of you. Is that in the cards, brother? Is that something you can do?
Yeah.
That. Because there's a bigger reason I want you to do that. Whether you consciously know this yet or it's sitting in your subconscious, you taking their money, right, financially, makes you feel like you can't. There's something incredibly intoxicating on standing on your own 2 feet. And so all that requires is for you to less Uber, less Equinox, less Starbucks, or if you do none of those things, 3 roommates instead of 1.
Yeah. The amount of Uber Eats that could be saved on this campus alone is fun to start up.
Yeah, like people don't realize we're in such a first world country that the things that they think are standard are insane luxuries. A man or woman drives to a place to pick up the food that was made for you and drops it off for you. You didn't even we got entitled where we stopped making our own food. Now we don't even go pick it up. So like, I think a lot about that. So it's a great question and super important. Of course, if your parents are paying, they're gonna have leverage. Let's eliminate their leverage. It gives you clarity to your focus. And then when you succeed, it tastes 10 times better. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Got it. I mean, look, you got your whole fucking life in front of you. I think 28's a tricky number because people get confused because you're post kind of that college era, 30s look at you in the face. And I think there's an enormous amount of confusion in the system for 28-year-olds about where they are in life. I think
that's my biggest problem I've been having lately, and that's I've been watching a lot of you and watching a lot of your videos and a lot of sayings that you do and all kinds of other stuff, and it's helped me kind of come out and realize, you know, my time is when I ever find it. I got my own clock.
100, bro, honestly, no joke, I feel like you're closer to 2.8 years old than the way you think about 28. Like, you've got fucking 60 fucking years of execution in front of you. That's like 2 fucking full lives more of execution. And the problem with 28 is 28's a fucking tricky thing. 28's fucking tricky. 28 is fucking too many people up. Because I'm telling you that looking at 30, like, wait a minute, it's like, oh shit, 30's here. Shouldn't I, quote unquote, have my life together? You know, and then at 28, you got, you know, 5 to 50% of your friends that you went to high school or college with that are like, you know, getting married, having, you know, getting somewhere in their life, da-da-da. Don't let anybody else's fucking clock, you know, dictate your game. Like, at, you know, 28 is early as fuck.
Yeah, it used to bother me really bad because they're all buying houses. They're 25, 26, buying houses, getting married, having kids, and
dude,
I'm still kind of at my mom and dad's house.
Brother, their fucking life has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, well, after I watched so many videos of yours, I snapped out of it and realized that my life is my life and nobody control it, and I'm going to be my own happiness. Nobody else can control that.
That's what's up, man. And honestly, like, fucking, like, that makes me happy. And honestly, I hope I hope it's really sinking in and it's not just early words coming out of your mouth. Because once you go there, dude, honestly, brother, I'll shoot it fucking straight to you. I'm 42 years old and I swear on everything I've got, I feel like I'm just starting, and everything that people think I am and what I've accomplished and all that is shit in my own head, because I'm like, I haven't even fucking started. So imagine what I think about you at 28.
Yeah, I left my girlfriend. I couldn't tell you how many friends I've thrown away. I couldn't tell you how many friends I just stopped talking to because they're losers. They're not winners. They don't have that ambition. They don't have goals in life. They have nothing.
Listen, some of the most painful things that so many people at 28 need to do is cut out negativity or people that are not going to the next place. Like, cutting out all that shit is enormously impactful, and that makes me happy, man. I think you.
That's what I've been doing.
Just keep cutting and if there's one person that's happy left, then that's how you do it. And if there's nobody, fucking manifest it in your own fucking dome. Dude, 28 is the beginning.
I'm at this age where 23, entering the best years of my life, correct?
Yeah.
I'm about to,
so.
hey, I'm very confused.
I'd give up everything to be 23.
Would you?
All of it.
To redo it?
100%. Time is the number one thing. Like, more time, like 18 more years, 100%, all of it.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's like you guys should be real happy. I look at these young faces, I'm like, fuck. Yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, like I was saying, you know, there's just a lot of pressure to be great like him.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, like, corporate finance, yes, I'm in it right now. I'm on the right path. Maybe
does he want you to be a CFO?
That's exactly what he wants me to be.
Do you want to be a CFO?
Slightly. I want to be successful. I want to make him proud. He's done a lot for me. I can repay him by being successful. I also want to be an actor.
Have you ever told him any of your truths? Or do you appease what he wants for now?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Look, I think, your dad loves you way more than he wants you to appease him. No matter what you believe. And I think the sooner you can have an honest conversation, like a real honest one, the sooner you could start doing. You may have a conversation with your dad this summer where you get really real off the momentum of this, and you may realize when you're done with it that, fuck, you actually want to be a CFO. The key is to just have the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, until then, I'll keep busting my ass. Hey,
yeah, but that's like you busting your ass is fine and dandy. If you actually, like, if this is the thing that you wanted to bring up, I'm telling you, as scary as it may be, the real truth conversation, is your mom around and involved?
Of course.
Does she know how you feel? Does she play the good cop kind of thing, or is she kind of like reinforced, like what?
They both want me to hit a target that's hittable. That's what they keep saying. Hit the target that's hittable.
Right.
because the acting target, the Broadway, the Hollywood, those are small targets to hit.
Let me give you a really, really, really good wisdom-based thing.
Please do.
You love your parents?
Absolutely.
I figured based on your vibe, if you don't do what you want to do, you're going to end up regretting it, which is then going to manifest at being mad at them, and you are doing a greater disservice to the relationship of you and your parents by not doing what you want to do than by doing what they want you to do. There's a seed of what you actually want to do. You're hiding that seed because you love your parents so much, right?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna then do that, and then you're gonna be 42 and not have the chance to do your thing, and you're gonna be mad at them, and you're gonna blame them for it, and then it's gonna hurt your relationship, not help it.
Understood.
That's it. So
that's real.
It's really real, and it's the biggest advice I give to kids. I love my parents too, like fucking, I love, like, I think you're coming from a great place. You just don't realize yet what the cost of suppressing your own wants and desires, how it manifests.
Okay.
And that's how it's gonna manifest. So you gotta give that thought. One of the great compliments I can get is what just happened, which is as we were walking here, you know, the wonderful people that were setting me up, they're like, do you want a coffee? I'm like, I can get it. Like, it's just acting humble. Like, you want, like, back to happiness. This is kind of the latest thing that I'm in the lab on in my flights and in the shower and when I'm sleeping. Humility is such an unlock for happiness, but people just don't want to go there. They make a couple of bucks or get a blue check in social or have a couple of followers and they start to think they're somebody. And it's a dangerous drug. Ego is just insecurity with makeup on. And I highly recommend to everybody start to fall in love with humility. I don't like you could have 79 locations in this network and make $43 million a year, and are you a good person? Are you happy? Like, so we have to change the conversation around success, but that's another talk for another day. So I'm in my dad's store, and this is where I want to go with the meat of it. I wanted to give you some context, but growing up in retail, 15 hours a day for real, just, you know, like my dad should be in jail for child labor. Every weekend, every family vacation, like we didn't have vacations, I worked every Saturday for 20 years, like real stuff. I didn't leave my dad's business until I was 34 years old. So by the way, back to the 30-year-old crowd, for the people, how many people here consume my content on social? Raise your hands. Thank you. So for those people, you know, I pound patience. I put it out, I believe in it so much. I think for a lot of you here who don't know me or haven't consumed it, I believe patience is imperative if you want to build something in a meaningful way. I think a lot of the issues or the shortcomings or the concerns one has in here is they have a theoretical number that they've made up of how much money they want to make that's completely arbitrary, and how much money at what age, and it really screws people up. It makes them take shortcuts, it gets them antsy, it makes them feel unhappy. So there's a lot there with like patience, and that's what I deployed. I lived in that store for 20 years. When I went full-time in 1998 after I came back from college, the business was doing $3.7 million in top-line revenue and 10% gross profit. It was called Shoppers Discount Liquors for a reason. I remember when I was 16, I was like, Dad, when I started to get to see a little bit under the hood, I'm like, Dad, why do you buy a case of Budweiser for 12 bucks and you sell it for 12 bucks? I'm like, you buy a bottle of Absolute vodka for $15 and you sell it for $15? I'm like, what's that? He's like, we make it up in volume. Never understood that one. But I'm razzing a little bit, but I think this will make sense for you. I believe in the loss leader. I believe in the thing that brings people to the store. So I learned that model, but the business was doing $3.7 million in 1998. And by 2003, in a 5-year window, I grew that business from a $3.7 million a year business to a $60 million a year business with no capital infusion, no VC money, no credit line, because my dad's an immigrant, no credit line. And the way I did it is basically what I want to talk to you about today. The way I built that business in 5 years was based on 2 core things, marketing and management. On the marketing front, I have a big thesis. If anything sticks for you from a business standpoint in this talk, I'd like you to remember this term. Everybody here outside of the help that corporate is doing in marketing, that you decide to do in marketing, and here's a good one. It doesn't even require a lot of media dollars. It's not running the advertising. It's about the creative you put out on social. The thing you're always looking for is the thing I inherently understood in 1998 that I later understood how to communicate it. It's called underpriced attention. The number one thing everyone here has to leave Vegas for and go back if they want to really substantially grow their business is becoming great at operating in underpriced attention. I was, born in the Soviet Union. I came to the US when I was 3. And unlike most immigrant kids from Europe during the 80s, I was not getting straight A's in school and education's the way out. I just had entrepreneurial DNA from the get. From the moment I could literally remember, I was selling something. When I was 6, I tricked all my friends in the neighborhood to stand behind my lemonade stands. So I've been in the business you've been in for a long time. When I was 6, 7 years old, I literally had a lemonade franchise. I convinced, may she rest in peace, my great friend Marissa Bird, Robbie Turnick, Andy Greco, Eric Godfrey, I literally convinced them to stand behind the lemonade stand tables around the neighborhood, and I would make signs all day long, and I would literally walk around the neighborhood. For the youngsters in here, who's under 30? Raise your hands. Under 30? Raise them high, don't be scared. Yeah, so for you kids, this is crazy. We used to play outside. So this was 1983, 4, 5, and I would literally, my mom would throw me outside at 9 a.m. We came back for lunch, we came back for dinner, we were out. And I was marketing, and I was obsessed at 6, 7 years old with one thing, and it took me, I don't think I remembered this until 10 years ago when my career was going in a certain way and I started being much more retrospective and how did I get here and what are the pillars that are making me not only be successful, but to be very frank, happy. So many of my friends who are 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure incomes and net worths, just a shocking amount of them are unhappy. And so that really affected me in the last 10 years. I was like, what is this? Why does this work for me? So I've been very introspective for the last 10 years. And I recalled, this is crazy. I would convince my friends to have all these lemonade stands. And I would literally, I thought at 7 years old, the coolest thing I could do with my time, instead of playing wiffle ball or doing whatever, was literally to stand on the corner of literally standing on the corner of cross streets and intersections in New Jersey and would sit there and just watch every car drive by and try to figure out which tree or pole to put the sign on because that's where their eyes were. This is sick. But in hindsight, it's the biggest thing I want to talk about today, which is, do you pay attention to where attention is? If you understand where attention is, literally almost everything that's running through your beautiful mind right now of what you'd like to accomplish in your business can be reverse engineered. So that's who I was at 7, tricking all my friends to my franchise lemonade stand business. And for people over 40 in here, you might remember Big Wheels, right? It was like a fake bike. I used to go at 5 or 6 p.m. and ride my Big Wheels to my 4 to 5 locations and pick up the cash like I was Tony fucking Soprano. So that's my DNA. Sports cards became a big thing. They've recently come back, so that might be on people's radar. That was big for me, and I was making $1,000 a weekend selling sports cards when I was 11, 12 years old, which no matter how much wealth I created in my life was definitely the richest I've ever been and ever will be. Because when you have $10,000 under your bed in cash, and you're 12, and you're not selling weed, you're a real fucking entrepreneur. Shifted, and I think this is where I connect with so many of you. My life shifted very aggressively at 14. I was winning and doing this amazing stuff, and then I don't know how many of you have Soviet fathers, but when your Soviet father owns a liquor store in New Jersey and you turn 14, your life changes. And so on my 14th, literally, this is how gangster my parents are. On my actual 14th birthday, my dad's like, you're coming to the store. And I worked in the liquor store that day, and I went from making $1,000 a weekend selling sports cards to making $2 an hour for 14 hours a day, bagging ice in the basement of my dad's liquor store for the next 2 years. I don't know how many people, by show of hands, and don't be scared like the 30-year-olds were, hi, how many people here saw the movie The Goonies? Raise your hand. Great. From 14 to 16, I was sloth. I was chained to the basement of my dad's liquor store, bagging ice, which really is the greatest thing in hindsight for me. For a lot of you that are building this business, this is a family business tangent. Teaching youngsters the humility of hard work for little amounts of money is one of the great gifts you can give your child. I highly recommend it. I believe that happiness, and everybody has their own work-life balance. This is a conversation of one. I have no interest in imposing my way of like working a lot because I love it, but I also have no interest in other people that are telling people like don't, when they may have different goals and ambitions. And so, I think we need to call it demonizing hard work, because I think when you go into workaholics or when you go into hustle, I think we've created terms that have become demonized, and that's fine. That's just the evolution of conversation. But in wrapping up this audio that's gonna start this blog post, I just want everybody who reads this to say, look, I do not think I'm right. I do not have that audacity. I share what works for me and may or may not work for others. I feel like if you go read Crush It in 2008-9, I've been very consistent, which is take advantage of this ridiculous opportunity, but make yourself happy. I've talked about selling Smurf stuff for $80,000 a year. Like, it's not about being a trillionaire and all this, So I think entitlement is what led to a lot of people burning out, because they weren't in a position where they were living in merit, and now that they're startup founders, they're burning out because they're not good at it. This is not about how many hours they put in. They're not good at it. And so, nonetheless, it's a very touchy subject that I'm passionate about. But I do think work ethic matters. I think it's very hard to succeed without putting in the time against a competitive set of other people that are willing to put in the time. But I do think happiness trumps everything, and I think people need to be self-aware of what makes them tick, not how I did it or how somebody in Denmark's telling them how to do it.
I think a big reason why people push against that is because in culture and blog posts you see like the regrets of older people, and most people are like, oh, I wish I didn't work as hard.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I didn't spend as much time with
Yeah.
this. Like,
Yeah.
what would you say to that? It comes out of self-awareness.
It comes out of self-awareness. I totally respect that, and I think a lot of people have that. I also think that if those people listen to me and to the nuances that I'm trying to communicate, what they might have done is created a side hustle and created an income around something that made them happy, and instead of, doing something they didn't like and did it for the money, they would have done it for happiness. Like and so, I think the people that we talk about didn't have the internet. We talk about an 80-year-old, they didn't have options. There was not what I believe in now, which is side hustles into actual businesses is a practical 11-year play. And as a matter of fact, I think we should write an article called that, Side Hustles Turning into Actual Incomes and Businesses Over a Decade is Practical. Like that's what I'm saying. Take your 2 hours a night and start your baseball card business, and start your Lord of the Rings podcast, and start your Instagram account, and work for a decade around your favorite thing. Dude, I flew all across the country on Sunday, like did a ton of work, had a short weekend, had a crazy week before, landed and did sports cards for 4.5 hours. Forced myself to go to sleep because I couldn't get enough of looking up on eBay, collecting data on a strategy to deploy investment. I value the gray and the intuitive, not just the numbers, in a way that most don't, because it's not teachable, it's my talent, so I lean in on it. Right?
Yeah.
I also lead with humility and confidence, and those are two very interesting things. When you lead with humility, you might have not hired somebody for the right spot at first. So I feel like it's my response. I mean when I say I work for 1,000 people, not they work for me. So it's my job to figure them out, that maybe their manager and them don't have good dynamics. Maybe they're not as good at that skill set, but if I get to know them, like, but you're super creative. Like there's a kid in, like Tyler's like, hey, this kid in media should be the writer for sports betting on one, that's probably gonna happen. You know?
Yeah, I think like,
I take on, you know what? I feel like I take on a sense of responsibility to people choosing to work at my company. And I feel a sense of responsibility that I don't think most people feel. I think people feel like it's transactional.
like most businesses feel like that if you work for them, like they're giving you something, like they're.
And you're giving them something, you're giving them money. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's transactional. I'm not transactional. I almost manage like brand, right? It's an interesting theme, right? I'm like, I manage in the same way I build brand. It's in perpetuity. And when things are in perpetuity, you care about how something ends in the short term. Most people view you, Jason, working here, like when he quits and tries to go, Babin's gonna go try to do something else. Like sometimes people leave, other times we let people go. Like, I think people think that's the end. I think it's a chapter.
Has there been a time when you fired someone or let someone go, and over time that relationship has been valuable for you, like in a business sense?
Of course.
Like what, can you talk about a time when that's happened? Or?
Probably not without putting somebody on blast, and it's really funny, I'm even struggling right now to come up with it, but the answer is of course. Let's see. Time where somebody fired, they weren't super, who's been not super pumped with me, but then it's worked out. It's real, and you know where it's really real? Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes.
What do you mean by that?
They may not tell me, and they may not make it obvious to me, but after they're over the hurt, and now they've tasted other places, I mean, this happens for real. There's one I can think of that I'm not gonna put out there where they didn't agree with the way it went down. They went on to go work on the brand side. And on the second place that they worked at, they gave us a cosign of you should work with Vayner. And it was predicated on the good, good stuff.
Yeah.
It's called reputation. Reputation management.
Yeah.
Like I care about it. Because my intent's right, and I also know things are circumstantial. Both of you already liked and disliked things in this job on the delta of, I mean, there's people here that are happy as fuck that 2 years ago were like 1 day away from quitting. And there's people that loved it for 6 years and the last 3 months have been dog shit and are out. It ebbs and flows. Circumstances, right? Jim could have come in and been a terrible guy and been like, I'm the elder statesman, you're all idiots, and I've been busy and traveling for 3 weeks, and Andy decided to let it play a little bit, and that may have led you to quit. Because we, even though we're starting to get closer, just weren't far enough that you didn't say, okay, this is like the normal world, here comes some older dude, and now I'm not gonna be able to do my shit, and got it?
Yeah.
And you didn't have the confidence, or I didn't create the safety for you to come in and talk about it. You have the benefit of sitting right here. You guys know me, they don't. I'm a contradiction. Let's start with that. Right? I'm super let everybody do anything and I micromanage the smallest, right? Yeah. Right? I think, weirdly, I might be the most, I'm in the 1%, I feel confident about saying that, of people that can actually hold the contradictory of trying to build a huge business and care about people more than that. But like 50, I don't even know if it's 51-49, it might be 50.1, 40. The reason I do that is because I care more about a person in the world running around saying who I am as a man than the profitability of my company. It's not, all these choices are binary. Either I care more about the money, or I care more about how I feel about myself, my reputation and how that person that gave me their trust in working for me feel about me. I choose the latter. Most people don't.
Why do you think they struggle with that? Why do you think most leaders struggle with firing?
Because I think most people care about money and are selfish and actually genuinely don't care about other people.
That affects how they see
The whole thing.
Yeah.
The reason I try to put people on when they get fired, the reason why I'm willing to let them control the narrative so they're not embarrassed with friends in the office, the reason I give them as much of a head start as I can, whenever I can, so that they're not blindsided, is because I care about them.